Now, this isn't a scary story, but more of a creepy one. My friend's dad's family used to live in the woods near Eureka Springs, Arkansas. My friend's uncle was the oldest of the 3 kids and was allowed to explore the woods on his own, even though he was only about 9. One day he came across a little cottage nestled in the woods. He knocked on the door and was greeted by 2 old ladies. He promptly asked for some water, as he had been exploring for hours. The ladies invited him in and gave him milk and cookies and sat down and talked with him while he pet their white cat. They talked for a while and they eventually invited him to stay for dinner and spend the night because it was getting dark and he was a long way from home. His parents were pretty used to him being in the woods for nights without coming back, so he accepted without question. He spent the night without incident and returned home the next morning. He visited many more times over the next year, and one day they told him to bring his parents and brothers the next time he came. So the next week the whole family embarked on the long trek to the cottage. When they arrived, however, they found the remains of a small cottage that appeared to have been abandoned for years. Everyone was very confused, as they all trusted that my friend's uncle had visited the women many times. They had absolutely no idea what had happened or if my friend's uncle had actually been visiting anybody. To make things even weirder, as they were leaving, an old skinny white cat ran past them, darting into the trees, leaving them in utter shock. I am a 20-year-old female and I live in Michigan. I was 16 years old when these events happened. I am a huge athletic nerd and I go hiking every day unless I feel lazy. I picked the wrong day to go one day and I met and experienced something I will not want to experience again. I drove to the hiking trail I go to just about every time I go hiking, and this day I saw a creepy guy who looked to be in his 30s, but me being as stubborn and hard-headed as I was back then, I ignored my gut and went and started jogging on the trail. I got about 200 to 300 yards away from the entrance and decided to take a short break. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from what sounded like a man. I took a look down the path and it made my heart drop. I saw the guy running straight towards me as my adrenaline rushed into me and I started to run as fast as I could. This guy was running so fast he was catching up with me and I was a really fast runner. This guy ran like he had taken 2 shots of steroids and I started to cry in panic. I took a sharp turn into the woods and started to run back to the parking lot area. I kept hearing his footsteps not so far behind me. As I kept running, the footsteps started to go slower as I was getting closer and closer to the parking lot. At last, I made it to the parking lot and cried tears of joy as I took out my cell phone and called the cops. Not so long after they arrived, they searched and found the man. He was a homeless 37-year-old guy, and they said they found a butcher knife in one of his coat pockets. Till this day, I am glad I did ROTC throughout high school, or else he would have had an energy advantage against me. To the creepy maniac homeless guy, let's not meet ever again. I guess I'll start with a background. I'm a 33-year-old female, but this story takes place when I was a teenager, living in a suburb of Chicago. The village I lived in was quiet and middle class. We lived like a mile from the police station, and the worst crimes we had were a murder or 2 and like a robbery once in a blue moon. 99% of the time, boring and more boring. Unless you had a car, you were stuck just walking around at the park at night with your friends. Kind of boring. Anyway, one night my girlfriend and I decided to go hang out at a park with some guys at like 12 a.m. The night was a bit windy and had a full moon. I even got a kiss that night from a boy I liked, but that night wasn't just fun and hanging out late. There's a deep forest in the park with a stream and a playground right next to it. There's 2 bridges, one of wood, the one that everyone uses, and one bridge made of rocks that's rarely used because it's deeper in the forest, over the stream, connecting the 2 halves of the forest area park. I'll get to the rock bridge in a minute. We hung around on the swings and chatted and just spent the evening together. I'm sitting and just looking around, talking and enjoying the peace and quiet and the moonlight. I have a full view of the forest and the dip of the earth that I know leads to the stream. I see something moving over that dip of earth, some dark shape. It looked like it was crawling out of the forest. An arm, then another arm. It pulls itself out of the ditch, a figure darker than the surrounding forest. And I'm sitting there, frozen. I think I'm seeing things. It just kind of lays there on the ground but doesn't move. A flash of fear grips me. What if it comes this way? I look to my friends and no one notices anything. I look back and it's gone. Did it go back or did it go somewhere else? I really want to get out of there. Then one friend asks, "Did you guys hear about the urban legend of the rock bridge over the stream? Apparently some kids or something played on the bridge and fell over and died." What a thing to say after what I saw, but I didn't ask anyone anything and just pretended I didn't see anything. But the experience stuck with me. I never talked about it because it must have been my imagination. Things like that happen only in scary movies, right? But I rarely went back to that park after that. And Black Thing, if you are real, I hope we never meet again. Who knows what would have happened if you saw me at the same time I saw you. Okay, so I don't really know how to start this story off, but it just happened like an hour ago and I'm still spooked. So a bit of a preface. Me and my friend are home alone right now and have been for a few hours. Every time he comes over, we go to the woods by my house, and it's normally uneventful, with some throwing rocks and breaking trees and stuff. Harmless fun. But this time, something else happened. Like I said, we're home alone and have been for a while, and while this happened, we were obviously home alone. We went outside to go to the woods, and the trip there was uneventful, but once we got there, something was off. Everything was dark. Tons of trees had been knocked down, and the entire place was not like I remembered it being. We kept going in, still having our usual harmless fun, and at one point my friend turned to me and said we should go back. I looked at my phone and decided it had only been 30 minutes, and so we might as well stay longer, 'cause it'll be a few more hours until anyone would want us to be home. We continued on, finding a few strange things like old crushed Mountain Dew cans, probably 10 to 20 years old, a toy boat which had been completely destroyed by the wind and water, and other things. Our plan was to go further than I had ever been into the woods, which isn't very hard for us because I've barely been that deep. After walking for a while, we came to a landmark I knew of that marked about the deepest I've ever been. A while ago, when I was going far in, I came upon a bridge built on a log that fell over in a river in the middle of the woods. However, one thing was different. There was something sitting on top of it. Whatever was on it was small and resembled the head of an animal. When we got closer and got a good view of it, it was a deer skull, pearly white and clean, sitting on the bridge, with no clue as to who put it there or where the rest of the deer was. Behind the river there was a huge hill with a creepy small house on it, and while we were looking around, I heard a creak or some other high-pitched noise from up towards it. Freaked out, we began to run, and from behind me I hear my friend scream, and I hear him running behind me. We both keep running, and once we reach the edge of the woods, we step onto the road. I asked him why he screamed, and he said he heard footsteps next to him. We quickly made our way home, and when we got there, the garage door was open. Not knowing if it was left open or not, we ran inside, locked the door, checked the house, and turned the alarm on. Now we're sitting here, and by the time I finish this, it's been nearly 2 hours since, and I still can't shake the fear the eerie woods left with me. A little background story. I'm Tessa, I'm 14. I live in Minnesota, and I go to this one campground up north, the kind in the middle of nowhere. I have gone to that campground for around 11 years and still go there to this day. It had only been open for a year or two before I started going there. My mom is real popular there. We know everyone. They are always having a party or staying up until 1 o'clock drunk as fuck. This particular night haunts me forever. Me and my friend Chloe were the best of friends. She was the shy brunette and I was the wild blonde. She always had this thing where she never liked sleepovers. This one night through text, me and her planned on having a sleepover outside her actual camper. Our parents did not stay out late that one night for some reason. We had a fire and did regular camping things. It was about 1 a.m. when we decided to go to this shower house with showers and bathrooms. It was one of the best campgrounds in North America. It's a fact, not my opinion actually. So we were in the shower house planning to just hang out because the shower house has a lodge and it's the only place that has Wi-Fi. My data does not work because it's in the middle of nowhere. So we plan on staying there until about 3 a.m. At around 2 a.m. we realize that we need chargers. We go to her camper and grab our chargers, and on the way back we decide that we need some air before we go inside. Chloe is on her phone, and around the corner behind her is an old guy, or maybe a woman, who looks to be like 100 years old. This person is walking a rat, or what looks like one at least. I scream and tell her what I see, and the guy, or whatever, has a crazy smile on him. We run as fast as our legs would let us. About 2 steps until we get inside, I start crying because I'm so scared, and Chloe is freaking out. We think about running inside and using the plug-in chargers, but hesitate to call either of our parents because we feel like they would get really mad at us or not even believe us. We weren't even supposed to be out past 1, let alone out until 3 a.m. Now we are freaking the fuck out, and we're afraid the man is going to bust down the door. We wait in the lodge for an hour past the point of the time where we saw the creepy old man, and we hesitate to open the door, but end up opening it. I'm thinking that we're going to die. We ran out the door, and as I turn around, I see the creepy old man with something that looks like a knife in his hand right around the corner from where we were. I think we almost got stabbed. To this day, we always remember this night, and P.S. our parents believed us and were mad at us for not calling them.